Hello everyone, today I'll be sharing another legal story with you. So on 15 September 2025, the Supreme Court was dealing with the case of Rajul Manoj Shah alias Rajeshwari Rasiklal Seth versus Kiran Bhai Shakra Bhai. While in this case basically an appeal was filed before the Supreme Court against the decision of the Calcutta High Court, and the Calcutta High Court in this case basically they allowed the filing of counterclaim against the co-defendant. So they allowed the filing of counterclaim against the defendant, and against this decision of the Calcutta High Court in which they allow the filing of counterclaim against the co-defendant, an appeal was filed in Supreme Court against this decision. So what is happening is that the Calcutta High Court allowed the filing of counterclaim. So basically let's say A is filing suit and B and C are co-defendants. Okay, so here what is happening here is that C is filing a counterclaim against his co-defendant, that is B. Okay, and this is allowed by the Calcutta High Court, and against this an appeal was filed in the Supreme Court, okay, challenging this decision of the Calcutta High Court. So on this point the Supreme Court hold that a counterclaim under Order 8 Rule 6A of CPC, okay, can be filed against the plaintiff and cannot be filed against the other co-defendant. So Supreme Court in this case held that a filing of a counterclaim against co-defendant is not allowed, and counterclaim can be filed only against the plaintiff. So what it is saying is that in this case the defendant, that is C, he cannot file a counterclaim against his co-defendant, that is B, but he can file a counterclaim against plaintiff, that is A. So filing of counterclaim can be only against plaintiff and not against the co-defendant. Okay. So basically while delivering the decision, the Supreme Court referred the case of Rohit Singh and others versus the state of Bihar 2006. And while referring the case, the court observed that a counterclaim cannot be made against the co-defendant. Okay, so the Supreme Court referred this case of Rohit Singh and others versus the state of Bihar 2006. Okay. Another ground on which the Supreme Court find the decision of the Calcutta High Court erroneous is that the defendant was allowed to make a counterclaim against the co-defendant after framing of issues. Right. So this is the other issue where the Supreme Court find the decision of the Calcutta High Court erroneous. That was that the Calcutta High Court allowed the filing of counterclaim even after the framing of issues. Okay, on this point the Supreme Court relied on the case of Ashok Kumar Kalra versus Wing CDR Surendra Agnihotri 2020. In this case it was held by the court that the counterclaim must be brought before framing of issues. So a counterclaim can be brought before the framing of issues and not after the framing of issues stage. So there are two things to learn. First is that a counterclaim cannot be made against the co-defendant. Okay, it can only be made against the plaintiff, it cannot be made against the co-defendant. So you cannot file a counterclaim against co-defendant. Secondly, counterclaim can be filed before the stage of framing of issues. Okay, it can be allowed only before the framing of issues stage. Okay, not after that. After that you cannot allow the filing of counterclaim. These are the two important learnings in this case. Okay, thank you so much.